Democratic Party is expanding the number of congressional districts it's looking to win in this year's midterm elections. This morning, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee unveiled 5 additional districts it is targeting this November. That brings the total number of districts the Democrats consider in play to 44. Republicans currently hold a slim majority, 218 to 214 in the House. And this morning, there was a new development in the upper chamber of Congress.
This is perfect for 2026 because I'm running.
I thought that was AI for a second. Maine Republican Senator Collins announced she is running for re-election this fall in response to the DCC said, in part, quote, Mainers have had enough of Collins' 3-decade career and, quote, will vote her out.
In a totally surprising turn of events, on the 1st of March 2026, the House of Representatives did something unprecedented. They formally summoned President Trump to appear and testify in person under oath. That's right. He's required to show up, not just when it suits him and not through his lawyers. He's supposed to stand before Congress and swear to tell the truth on the Bible. The resolution dictating this is numbered hate rest to 400. And it basically tells Trump he needs to make an appearance by a certain deadline or risk facing contempt charges and other legal repercussions. This is a moment in history signaling that Congress has finally had enough of the excuses and is demanding answers. They want to hear about everything. What went down in Iran, the details of the Epstein evidence, the DOJ, all of it.
Justice Department said that they have not deleted any documents, and that they said that if there are documents that are not on the public website, that's either because they were duplicates, privileged, or part of an ongoing investigation. We have seen with the release of these records on the public website that sometimes documents are there, they're taken down, then they're put back up. It's unclear if there is any process that is underway related to these specific documents and these allegations against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, though, has not been accused of any wrongdoing. He's not been investigated for any wrongdoing. And it's unclear what happened to these specific allegations by this woman who spoke with investigators in 2019. There was another record in the files, a summary from the FBI about a number of these salacious allegations. And it said that one person claimed abuse by Trump but refused to cooperate. So if that is that same person, it could be that they just reached a dead end.
The Justice Department has stated they haven't deleted any of these records. So there's been a lot of chatter about documents and why some aren't showing up on the public site. Apparently, if they're not there, it's either because they were duplicates, considered privileged, or are part of an ongoing investigation. It's interesting. We've seen documents pop up on the site, then disappear only to reappear later. The whole process around these particular documents and the claims against Donald Trump is still a bit of a mystery. Now, just to clarify, Donald Trump hasn't been accused of any wrongdoing and isn't currently under investigation. Still, the specific claims made by a woman who talked to investigators back in 2019 are unclear. There was an FBI summary floating around mentioning that one person alleged abuse but didn't want to cooperate. If that's the same woman, they might have just hit a dead end. In typical Trump fashion, when he got word of a congressional summons demanding he testify under oath, he totally lost it. He jumped on True Social and went off in all caps, claiming it was treason for the crazy radical left to ask him that. It's quite something to see him equate a constitutional duty to the most serious crime in America. His panic is palpable, and it's obvious he knows what's at stake. Trump realizes that if he has to testify, there's a good chance he'll be caught lying. Congress is going to throw questions his way that could easily incriminate him. He's in a tight spot, and it's looking like a losing battle. As for impeachment, things are heating up. The House vote count just surged to 245 in favor of impeachment, which is even higher than the procedural vote. This means more Republicans are breaking ranks, and the momentum is definitely building. Impeachment is not just on the table. It's almost a certainty at this point. Once the House votes to impeach, it heads over to the Senate, and they're already gearing up for conviction votes. Senate Republicans are saying they have about 62 votes lined up for conviction, which is just a handful short of the 67 needed to remove him from office. Just 5 votes away. Snorts. That means one more scandal, a new piece of evidence, or just one more Republican deciding to break from the party could tip the scales. It's quite the situation unfolding. So, here's the deal. There's been a lot of commotion lately, all sparked by that leaked audio from Bondi, where she basically reveals that she helped protect Trump in the Epstein case. Now, Congress is digging into that, along with the fallout from the tragic loss of over 300 Americans during the Iran escalation and the mess with the Department of Justice. Plus, General Caney isn't following Trump's orders, which is pretty telling. With all this pressure mounting, Congress is stepping up and saying it's time for Trump to testify under oath. And honestly, I can imagine Trump's feeling pretty panicked right now. He knows that when you're under oath, you can't just dodge questions or make wild claims. You have to answer directly. If he tries to lie, well, that's perjury. And we all know how serious that is, as it could land him in prison and haunt him for years to come. In a recent ruling, Judge Mehta made it clear that Trump can't just hide behind the idea of presidential immunity when it comes to impeachment inquiries. The judge stated that he can't just claim he's the president and avoid answering questions. No, Congress has the constitutional right to investigate him, and Trump has to play ball. This ruling has thrown Trump into a tailspin because now he's looking at a tough decision. Should he go forward and testify or defy the courts in Congress, which could lead to even more legal troubles? The big kicker here is that Bondi's leaked audio has given Congress all the evidence they need to compel him to testify. She effectively admitted that Trump ordered her to cover up information regarding Epstein, which is a serious accusation of obstructing justice. Congress wants to know what's being hidden and why he told Bondi to hold back those documents. The pressure is definitely on, and they're insisting that Trump needs to answer some tough questions about what's in those Epstein files. They want the American public to hear from him directly and grasp what he's really trying to cover up. And that's where we stand right now. Things are really heating up for Trump as he now faces a summon to testify under oath. He's been having a bit of a meltdown on social media. And honestly, it's hard to believe he's reacting this way. Meanwhile, Congress is moving forward with impeachment, and the talk in the Senate is shifting towards a possible conviction. Day by day, his legal predicament seems to be spiraling further out of control. As we dive into the details, it's clear that we're witnessing the endgame of the Trump presidency unfold right in front of us. It's important to break down what it actually means for Congress to order him to testify under oath. There's so much at stake here, especially if he decides to refuse or actually shows up. This is a pretty unique constitutional challenge that hasn't really been settled in the past, which makes it even more significant with the courts now stepping in. Let's take a moment to understand the constitutional authority at play here as it forms the core of the situation. According to Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, Congress holds the power of impeachment, which means the president can be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. Specifically, it's the House that can initiate the impeachment, while the Senate takes on the role of hearing the case and deciding whether to convict or acquit. With that in mind, Congress has quite broad investigative powers when it comes to impeachment. They can issue subpoenas for witnesses, demand documents, and compel testimony. This is all part of the impeachment power, allowing them to probe into whether the president has committed actions serious enough to warrant removal from office. Now, there's been some debate over whether a president can just refuse to comply with a subpoena during an impeachment inquiry. There's the question of whether he can hide behind executive privilege or simply say, "I'm the president, so I don't have to answer." Historically, this has been a bit murky. Previous presidents have tried to assert executive privilege and block congressional investigations. However, one judge pointed out that during an impeachment inquiry, executive privilege doesn't hold up. Congress has the right to access the information it needs, compel testimony, and thoroughly investigate the president. It's a framework that makes sense because at its core, impeachment serves as a necessary check on presidential power. So here's the deal. If the president could just hide behind executive privilege whenever there's an impeachment investigation, that would essentially make the whole impeachment process pointless. Imagine him just stonewalling Congress and not cooperating at all. That would really mess with the system of checks and balances. But then Judge Mehta stepped in and said, nope, Trump has to respond to Congress. He's officially required to testify if Congress asks him to, and he can't just hide behind executive privilege anymore. This ruling is the law, and it's not something he can sidestep. If he brushes off the judge's order, that would be contempt of court, which is a federal crime. So now Trump finds himself in a tight spot. He can either play ball or openly defy a federal judge. And he knows what compliance means. He has to sit down in front of Congress under oath and answer a whole bunch of questions about serious stuff like Iran, the Epstein files, and Pam Bondi. He's also aware that lying under oath could get him into even more trouble with perjury charges, which come with their own set of legal consequences. So he's really caught in a bind. If he testifies truthfully, it could incriminate him, but if he lies, he risks facing charges for that too. Either way, he's looking at legal troubles. Now, the audio with Bondi is crucial here because it's what prompted Congress to feel they needed Trump to testify. In that recording, she basically admits that Trump is tangled up in the Epstein files and that he instructed her not to release them. That's a direct admission of crime and obstruction of justice right there. When Congress heard that tape, they realized they had to get Trump's direct explanation. They want to know what's actually in those Epstein files and the reasoning behind his order to keep them under wraps. And let's not forget the situation with Iran, which was what kicked off the entire impeachment saga. Trump ordered strikes that resulted in the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, leading to over 300 American casualties in retaliation. General Kenney even testified that Trump ignored military advice and acted recklessly. Congress is really eager to hear Trump's side of all this. Congress is really pressing Trump to clarify his decisions, especially regarding the tragic loss of 300 American lives. They're keen to understand if he was aware of the risks and proceeded anyway. These are tough questions that deserve honest answers, and Congress is insisting he provides them under oath, ensuring there's no room for doubt about his honesty. Now, there's also the whole situation with the Department of Justice, which ties right into this. It paints a picture of Trump seemingly trying to misuse his influence to obstruct justice and hide evidence. He allegedly wanted the Attorney General to keep the Epstein files hidden and to use the DOJ against his opponents. Bondi, the Attorney General, went along with it, helping to obscure crucial evidence. So here comes Congress asking why Trump ordered such obstruction. Why attempt to suppress evidence? Why try to turn the Justice Department into a tool for his personal agenda? These are serious inquiries, and he should answer them under oath. In a typical Trump move, he took to social media and posted some wild messages about how the crazy radical left wants him to testify under oath as a form of treason. But that sort of response isn't going to save him from the summons or diminish the seriousness of the situation. Instead, it only adds to the impression of guilt, making it seem like he's really on edge. It definitely hints to the public that he might have something to hide. After all, if he was completely in the right, wouldn't he welcome the chance to clear his name? An innocent person would eagerly say they have nothing to hide and would happily answer questions. Yet here we are with Trump in full panic mode, throwing attacks at Congress and trying to undermine the entire process. That behavior speaks volumes about his guilt. And then there's the recent House vote where moving towards 245 representatives is pretty telling. It reflects momentum and suggests that more Republicans believe impeachment is in order. The evidence against Trump seems to be gaining strength, and folks who might have hesitated before are now ready to support impeachment. It's becoming quite clear that the arguments are compelling. So it turns out that Congress is pretty aligned on the idea that it's time for Trump to face impeachment. Once the House votes and approves the impeachment, it heads straight to the Senate. And guess what? The talks in the Senate are already buzzing about conviction. They're feeling confident there are enough votes to hold him accountable, meaning he might just find himself out of a job soon. Now let's take a closer look at what this summons truly means for Trump, what choices he has, and where all of this is going. Because we're nearing the finish line of his presidency, Congress is gearing up to bring everything to a head one way or another. Trump has to make a decision soon. He can either comply with the summons, step up and testify under oath, or he could choose to fight back in the courts, risking contempt charges and more legal headaches. Either way, things are about to get intense. If he goes with option one and complies, he'll have to answer questions about some tough topics. Things like Iran, the Epstein files, Bondi, and the DOJ. But here's the deal. If he tells the truth, it could end up implicating him. If he lies, well, that's perjury. It's a tricky spot for him. For instance, if he comes clean about directing Bondi to hide the Epstein files, that's an outright admission of obstructing justice. Or if he acknowledges ignoring military guidance on those iron strikes, he's admitting to recklessness, which might even hint at a war crime. Being honest could mean admitting to serious crimes, which I doubt he's planning on doing. So, more likely than not, he'll try to dodge the truth, minimize his answers, or shift blame onto others. But remember, he'll be under oath, and Congress will have all sorts of documents and witnesses ready. They'll even possess the Bondi audio. When Trump's testimony inevitably slips and clashes with the evidence, it's going to be pretty obvious to everyone that he's not being truthful. At that point, he'd be digging himself a deeper hole, creating yet another crime to add to his growing list. Alternatively, Trump could take option two and simply refuse to show up, declaring, "I'm not going to testify." That's just as risky. It's quite the mess we're dealing with, isn't it? So, here's the deal. When it comes to impeachment inquiries, Trump doesn't have the kind of immunity he might think he has. Judge Mehta already confirmed that he needs to comply with the inquiry, which puts him in a tough spot. If he decides not to testify, he's effectively ignoring a federal judge in Congress. That's important because that's considered obstructing justice, and it could lead to another article of impeachment against him. And this could very well seal his fate in the Senate. If Trump shows the public that he's above the law by refusing to follow the rules, there's no way any senator can back him up. They can't defend someone who's openly challenging both the courts and Congress. So no matter what happens, whether he decides to testify or not, he's really up against it. He either ends up incriminating himself with perjury or makes it clear that he's not fit to hold office. That's why it's looking like there are already 62 votes in the Senate for his conviction. Senators are taking a good hard look at the situation and deciding he's done for. They see that whether he speaks up in court or clams up entirely, they've got to move to convict and remove him before things spiral even further out of control. Now, just imagine what it would be like if Trump had to testify under oath. Picture him sitting in front of Congress with cameras capturing everything and Congress members firing direct questions at him. The challenge for Trump would be trying to answer those honestly, which is nearly impossible given his track record. We know he tends to exaggerate, deny the obvious, and just make things up as he goes along. Putting him under oath is like putting someone with a penchant for lying right in front of a lie detector. He's bound to contradict evidence like Bond's audio or General Kane's testimony, and that's going to be front and center for everyone to see. The American public would witness him perjuring himself on live television, which could effectively end his political career. It would convince the remaining Republicans in the Senate that they need to go ahead and vote for his conviction. Judge Mehta's support for the summons is a big deal, too, since it shows that the courts are backing up Congress in all of this. It looks like we're entering a pretty intense phase regarding Trump's legal battles. Snorts. The courts have made it clear that Congress has the power to demand Trump's testimony, and they're not playing around. This isn't some political theater. It's a constitutional matter, and Trump is obligated to comply. When a federal judge hands down an order, it's serious business. Ignoring it isn't an option for him because that would land him in contempt of court, which is no small thing. It's a federal crime. Interestingly, Trump's reaction gives you a sense of how much this weighs on him. The moment he started melting down on True Social, it became obvious he knows the implications of testifying under oath. He realizes he can't control the narrative or play fast and loose with the truth here. The evidence that could come out is likely to be damning, so he's in full-on panic mode. In response, he's thrown a few wild accusations around, like calling it treason and trying to undermine Congress's legitimacy. The thing is, this isn't some authoritarian move. It's just Congress doing its job. They're looking into whether Trump has committed crimes, which, let's face it, is part of their constitutional duty. Trump's the one who's in hot water. He ignored the Constitution by launching strikes on Iran without congressional approval. He allegedly asked the Attorney General to cover up evidence, and he's been accused of obstructing justice. The House vote, which moved to 245, shows a significant unity in Congress. Both Democrats and Republicans seem to agree that Trump should be investigated and possibly impeached. This points to the evidence they have being pretty overwhelming, not to mention that Trump seems to have lost the backing of his own party. Once the House passes impeachment, which seems likely, it goes to the Senate for trial. Early indications suggest there are around 62 votes supporting conviction, just 5 short of the 67 required to remove him from office. It's a narrow margin. If Trump chooses to testify and happens to commit perjury during the occasion, or if he openly defies the courts, those 5 votes could easily swing. Republican senators might decide they've had enough and vote for conviction instead. So here we are at what feels like the final stretch. Trump is summoned to testify under oath, and his response has been nothing short of frantic. Congress is moving forward, and we're witnessing a pivotal moment in this whole saga. So it looks like Trump's presidency is coming to an end, and it seems pretty clear that his removal is just a matter of time. Overwhelming evidence has gathered. Congress is on the same page, and the Senate seems to have the necessary votes to move forward. It's almost like a ticking clock now, with the only big questions left being how much chaos is he going to create on his way out, and whether he will face any criminal charges afterward. There's no escaping this for him. He can't lie, attack, or even tweet his way out of it this time. We're witnessing history in the making. The conclusion of the Trump presidency is happening, and I'll be here to cover every step of it as it unfolds. So definitely stay tuned for all the updates as we approach this significant moment.